Hare Krishna, my dear devotees. I hope you can hear me. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So tonight we're hearing from the second chapter, verse 62. And it says, the Hayato Visham Pumsa Sangat Jesu Pachayate, Sangat Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Pachayate. It's a very important verse. 62 and 63 are very, very important verses. And it says, and these two verses are teaching us how to see properly. So it says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them. And from such attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. The very important verse. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Prabhupada says, one who is not Krishna conscious is subjected to material desires while contemplating the objects of the senses. The senses require real engagement. And if they are not engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, they will certainly seek engagement in the service of materialism. In the material world, everyone, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, to say nothing of other demigods in the heavenly planets, is subjected to the influence of sense objects. And the only method to get out of this puzzle of material existence is to become Krishna conscious. Lord Shiva was deep in meditation. But when Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure, he agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridasa Thakura was a young devotee of the Lord and was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. Yeah, Haridas never stopped chanting Hare Krishna. And eventually, Maya Devi surrendered to him and became a follower of him and started chanting Hare Krishna all the time. So Haridas easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. Why? Because he was chanting every day over 300 rounds, which takes approximately, 23 and a half hours, almost the whole day. And it says here that when Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi, but Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. As illustrated in the above mentioned verse of Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord, Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord, shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. One who is not, therefore, in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure to ultimately fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his sense desires. So this verse is explaining the secret of success in spiritual life. What is that? That is that a devotee or sincere devotee shun, in other words, avoids all material sense enjoyment due to a higher taste. Dahami kramanastasti pratijayana vidyate. Svapam apiyas dharmas dharmaska. This is a very important verse uh, that says that when one has a higher taste, then they give up the lower taste, basically. So when you get a taste for Krishna consciousness, you'll lose the taste for sense gratification and mundane life. You don't become antisocial, but you're not interested in associating with materialistic people. Now you enjoy the association of genuine devotees and always stay engaged in devotional service. In other words, you don't have any time for nonsense. Let's put it like that. Sometimes people ask me, how you doing? I said, well, I'm okay. They say, what are you doing? I said, well, I'm always chanting Hare Krishna, and that keeps then, and I don't have any time for doing nonsense because I'm always chanting. And they laugh. Probably they're thinking I'm a fool, but that's all right. So sincere devotee shuns all material sense enjoyment due to a higher taste. Yahabikramanastasti pratijayana vidyate swalpam apiyasya dharmasya chayate mahato bayat. Once one has a superior taste, they're no longer interested in the lower taste. So when Lord Shiva was in deep meditation, Parvati agitated him for sense pleasure. He agreed to the proposal, and as a result, Kartikeya was born. When Haridas Thakur was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi herself. But Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. In other words, he was chanting over 300 rounds a day. So he was chanting 23 and a half hours a day. Because of that, Maya Devi surrendered to him and became his devotee. That means that a devotee who is constantly chanting and following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness is not in any way allured by Maya Devi or the agents of Maya Devi. I remember a very, very long time ago, I was uh, I was living in a house in Fontenay-aux-Roses. That's a suburb of Paris, and late at night, I think it was about 9:30, 10 o'clock at night, someone knocked on the door. So I went to the door, but I didn't open it up. And I said, who is it? And it was a young lady. And I said, what do you want? She said, well, I'd like to come in. I said, well, it's pretty late right now. She said, oh, come on, let me in. I said, no, I can't do that now. I have to take rest. I have to wake up early in the morning. So if you want to see me, you can come to the temple tomorrow. She said, no, come on, let me get in. I said, no. I'm sorry. Please leave. Without opening the door, I was talking through the door. I was not going to let her in because number one, she's a very attractive girl. And so uh, what happened? She, there was this one black devotee. Uh, he was African and a very handsome guy in many ways. Eventually, she went with him and uh, and left Paris. So you see, you have to be careful in life because if we make a vow, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and we break those vows, that's very serious because those vows are for protecting us and keeping us on the path of devotional service. So no matter what the condition is, we should always be protected by the regulative principle and never succumb to breaking them because then uh, you will become basically very, very weak devotee. But we should be strong devotees. We should understand that it's a great sin that after promising Prabhupada at the moment of initiation, he asked he asked you, what are the four regulative principles? And you say, well, no meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and always chanting Hare Krishna. Uh, Minimums, always chanting 16 good rounds every day. Well, I made that vow in front of Prabhupada and so many devotees. And at the same time, in my mind, I made another vow that if I ever broke the principles, I would commit suicide. Well, I'm still around. I haven't committed suicide because I did not break my vow. Uh, and I'm happy I didn't. I'm not missing anything. Let's put it like that. I'm very, very happy in Krishna consciousness. So we should also be very, very happy in Krishna consciousness because by breaking these vows that we make at the moment of initiation, what does the guru say? Okay, can you tell me what the four regulative principles are? Right? No meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, and always chanting 16 good rounds every day. Well, that's something we promise to do. And if we do it, we have a very good life, and there's a very good chance that we can go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So here it says, when Haridas was a young devotee of the Lord, he was similarly allured by the incarnation of Maya Devi herself. But Haridasa easily passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. What does that mean, unalloyed devotion to Krishna? Well, Haridas was chanting over 300 rounds every day, which took approximately 23 and a half hours. So there was no time for him to philander with Maya Devi, and he passed the test. This is called uh, the Mahadevotee test. If you can pass that same test as Haridas Thakur, you're going to be a very advanced devotee. What is an advanced devotee? Advanced devotee is not attracted by anything in the material world. He doesn't reject things in the material world that can be used in Krishna's service, but he's not attracted to anything for sense gratification in the material world. So the devotee is always focusing on following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. So Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord, shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success, to get this higher taste. Uh, so once you have this higher taste, uh, then you shun all material sense enjoyment, because now you have something that is far, far more, let's say, uh, valuable than sense gratification. And that is being engaged in devotional service with love and devotion to Krishna. And at that point, Krishna, uh, it will give you knowledge, will give you the determination to follow the rules and regulations, and he'll protect you. So now, under the protection of Krishna, he won't let you go away. And you will actually begin to understand that. And how do you, what does Krishna do? Well, he gives you the opportunity of being very successful in devotional service, so that you are not uh, allured by Maya and think that you can be happier somewhere else. You're completely satisfied being Krishna conscious. And here Prabhupada says, Sri Yamunacharya, a sincere devotee of the Lord, shuns all, shun means you ignore all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. Now, how do we get this higher taste uh, for for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord? Well, that's by doing, that's by chanting Hare Krishna and dancing and feasting, chanting, dancing, feasting in Krishna consciousness, and having festivals in Krishna consciousness, and preaching and helping others also taste the joy of chanting, dancing, and feasting in Krishna consciousness. Once you get this higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord, that is what's called the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his sense. Yes, so when I was in my house in Paris, I was alone, and somebody, knocked on the door. I think it was around 10 o'clock at night. And I said, "Who is it?" And it was the girl. I knew who the girl was. By the way, she was a very pretty girl. And I said, "What do you want?" I didn't. What do you want? I said, "Who is it?" I said, "What do you want?" She said, "I want to come in." I said, "No, I'm going to go to sleep." So she said, "No, well, let me come in, please." I said, "No, go away, go home, go to bed. Wake up tomorrow. You want to see me? You can see me." Now, I could have let her come in, but of course, that would be a disaster for me and for her also. So we have to have, uh, let's say, uh, the determination not to break the regulative principle. And that's why Prabhupada says here that Yamunacharya, sincere devotee of the Lord, shuns all material sense enjoyment due to his higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of the Lord. That is the secret of success. So unless we get this higher taste for spiritual enjoyment in the association of Krishna and his devotees, we won't be successful. But if we get that higher taste, that's the secret of success. One who is not therefore in Krishna consciousness, however powerful he may be in controlling the senses by artificial repression, is sure ultimately to fail. For the slightest thought of sense pleasure will agitate him to gratify his senses. All right. So, since the devotee shuns all material sense enjoyment due to a higher taste, he is successful in Krishna consciousness. He or she is successful in Krishna consciousness. Okay. So now we'll go to text 63. Unless there are any questions, does anyone have a question to ask? Any questions anyone might have? Okay, text 63. Krodahad bhavati samoha. Samahat smriti viprama. Smriti brahmasat buddhinasat pranasyati. These are great verses, wonderful verses. And this says, well, this is the continuation from verse 62. Let me just read 62. It says, while contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment for them, and from such attachment, lust develops, and from lust, when it's uh, uh, when it's let's say when they can't satisfy their lust, they become angry. From anger, complete delusion arises, and from delusion, bewilderment of memory. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool. Well, this is the slippery slope that takes place, and it begins by not seeing things correctly. If we meditate on a brand new car, meditate on a pretty woman or a handsome man, eventually lust develops. Lust means I must enjoy with this person. Otherwise, I will never be happy. And when that lust is not satisfied, there's anger. And when there's anger, then one becomes completely delusioned. And when one is completely delusioned, there's bewilderment of memory. That means you forget all the vows you made. When memory is bewildered, intelligence is lost. And when intelligence is lost, one falls down again into the material pool, meaning the cesspool, meaning nonsense. Okay, so the purport to this verse, chapter 2, text 63. If you learn these two verses, chapter 2, text 62, and chapter 2, text 63, text 63, you will make tremendous amount of spiritual advancement and avoid many, many problems in life. In other words, you will go back to Godhead just by knowing these two verses. In fact, you can repeat them every day and memorize them and read the purports and follow the example of Haridas Thakur, who passed the test because of his unalloyed devotion to Lord Krishna. Okay, so the purport to second chapter, text 63 says the following. Srila Rupa Goswami has given us this direction. Prapanchikataya buddhya harisambandhi vastuna mumukshubhihi parityago vairagyam falgu katyate. Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1.2.258. By development of Krishna consciousness, one can know that everything has its use in the service of the Lord. Yeah, there are people that say, well, how can you use everything in the service of the Lord? You know, how can you use an atomic bomb in the service of the Lord? How can you do this? Well, everything can be used in the service of the Lord. And if you don't know how to use everything in the service of the Lord, you should ask a senior devotee. Devotees know how to use everything. It says here that everything has its use in the service of the Lord when you develop Krishna consciousness. Those who are without knowledge of Krishna consciousness artificially try to avoid material objects. And as a result, although they desire liberation from material bondage, they do not attain to the perfect stage of renunciation. Their so-called renunciation is called falgu, or less important. On the other hand, a person in Krishna consciousness knows how to use everything in the service of the Lord. Therefore, he does not become a victim of material consciousness. For example, for an impersonalist, the Lord or the Absolute, being impersonal, cannot eat. Whereas an impersonalist tries to avoid good eatables. A devotee knows that Krishna is the supreme enjoyer and that he eats all that is offered to him in devotion. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnant called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized, and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. The impersonalist, therefore, cannot enjoy life due to his artificial renunciation, and for this reason, a slight agitation of the mind pulls him down again into the pool of material existence. It is said that such a soul, even though rising up to the point of liberation, falls down again due to his not having support in devotional service. Yeah, the slightest agitation of the mind will pull down the person, like who's an impersonalist or an imposter, someone who's pretending to be Krishna conscious but is engaged in what you call drinking water underwater on on Ekadasi. Now, someone makes a vow not to eat or drink. So but they want to go and swim in a lake or something. So they go to the lake, they jump into the lake, and underwater they start drinking some water. Then they come up, and nobody knows you drank water. So we don't want to be like that. They drink water underwater on a fasting day, trying to get away with something secretly. You know. So after offering good eatables to the Lord, the devotee takes the remnants called prasadam. Thus, everything becomes spiritualized, and there is no danger of a downfall. The devotee takes prasadam in Krishna consciousness, whereas the non-devotee rejects it as material. Yeah, so a long time ago, uh, there was one devotee, and he started fasting, and he convinced other devotees also to fast. And I kept telling the devotees, look, this is not good. You have to have prasadam. You don't fast from prasadam. But this one devotee had poisoned the minds of all the other devotees, or many other devotees, and there were a whole bunch of people fasting, right? And what happened? Eventually, that devotee who was teaching everyone to fast instead of eating prasadam, he fell down. And the other devotees, their whole faith in prasadam got weakened. So we should have plenty of faith in prasadam. We shouldn't be afraid to eat prasadam. And someone might say, "Well, it's too spicy," or "Well, it's like this or like that." Okay, well, tell the cook not to put so many spices. You know, but we should always uh, respect Krishna prasadam because it's been offered to the deities and offered back as the mercy of the Lord. So we shouldn't, someone might say, well, it's too spicy, or it's not, there's too much salt or something. Okay, well, you can go tell the cook, don't put so much salt, don't put so many spices, you know. And because, if it's too spicy or too much salt, well, the cook is not cooking properly. You know, that means that the cook is in Maya also, so they have to be very careful to cook properly. Like one time, uh, devotees gave Prabhupada prasadam, and the girl that cooked it, she put uh, too much salt, in the subji. It was way too much salt. And Prabhupada got really upset, and he called the girl. He said, "What is this? Why'd you put so much salt?" And she was like very scared. In fact, Prabhupada was really upset. Yeah. So we have to be very careful to cook properly because ultimately the only sense gratification that devotees have is prasadam. So therefore, prasadam should be very well cooked and offered with love and devotion to Krishna and then given back so that devotees can have very nice prasadam. That way, they're not afraid or they're not like discouraged. If the prasadams are not good in the sense of, nicely cooked and nicely offered and everything, then eventually the devotees will leave. I mean, the only reason I never left, although I wanted to, was because prasadam was so good. So I would always say, well, I'll just taste it one more time, and then I got hooked again that day. And I'd say, well, tomorrow I'll leave, and then tomorrow I said, well, I'll leave after I have prasadam. And then prasadam was so good, I got hooked again. So I'm still hooked today. But if I can't have nice prasadam, then I don't know, maybe I would leave. Uh, but prasadam has to be very nicely cooked and offered with love and devotion to Krishna. Then it's a supernatural, uh, supernatural food uh, that's full of love and devotion, and you can taste it and feel it and experience it, and therefore your mind stays steady in Krishna consciousness. Okay, I think we will pass time. Are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Any questions? Okay, no questions. Well, then thank you very, very much, my dear devotees, and take rest early tonight. So you can wake up early, chant all your rounds in the morning, early morning, and either come to Mangala Arati or at least be ready for the class at 6 o'clock tomorrow. Is it 6 o'clock or 6:30? 6:30. I'm sorry, 6:30. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Haribol.